Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for our second of 3 total builds of the 172nd P51D Mustang from Airfix. This is one of their more recent kits, one of the new tools, and obviously this is the second build that we're doing. It is of the 352nd Fighter Group P51D. This group was also known as the Nosed Bastards of Bodney, if I'm not mistaken, and had some notable actions during World War II, especially on New Year's Day 1945, I think it was, when when they intercepted part of the surprise attack for Operation Boat and Plate. So the German all-out offensive that was, spectacular in its lack of success. Anywho, so you can see we're doing the latex masking on this kit as per standard, so just using that to do the chipping effects for the tail and the nose. The metallic finish on this kit I did in the other video, so if you recall, I got that out of the way with the first video, and this one's just to show the individual markings of this aircraft. And the AK Interactive blue paint is what I use for the nose. It's RLM 83, and I just thinned it down a little bit. I put a tiny bit of thinner in there just to pass it through the airbrush a bit better, and added a touch of white, a little bit of Tamiya white, not much, just a tiny bit, and just to dull it down a little bit. Now you can see me using the toothpick here on the tail to get rid of the latex mask. That's obviously the Tamiya red XF7. So you can use this effect with or without the latex being underneath the paint. So if you haven't put the latex on there, very carefully chip away with the toothpick and remove the top layer of paint, but make sure you have sealed the lower coat with a good couple of coats of clear to protect the lower paint, otherwise you'll chip that away too. Same with the blue. The effect here, it really was, as I said in the other video with the Tuskegee P51, it really was a bit heavier than what I was aiming for, so I'm not 100% happy with it, but overall it's still not too bad. Now you can see on the nose here where I've mucked up with the masking. I haven't burnished the edges down, so that side's okay, but the other side here is a bit wonky. So very carefully, because we've clear coated it, we can just chip away at the edge of that paint with the toothpick very carefully. Just work it back into a line that we want. We're not going to damage the model at all because we've sealed all that. And just chipping away the latex. Now some of this is latex that I'm peeling away, other parts are just edges that I'm working on. So here's the front there. What better way to replicate paint chips than to actually chip the paint? So I'm not happy with that one, that one's a bit too big. And you can just move away all the easy to get to bits with your fingers. You don't have to use a toothpick for everything. Just make sure you don't scratch it with your nails. Alright, the propeller we did with the latex as well, and I did a little bit of extra chipping just around the very nose of the spinner here with the toothpick. Alright, now the paint's been clear coated, so the model's been hit with the clear coat again. Just on the painted areas, I'd already done the aluminium areas, and apply the decals. These decals really went on very well, same as in the other kit. The only issues I had were pretty much self-inflicted. Just use the scalpel here just to trim down over that little raised area, just to get the decal just to sit down a bit nicer, and then use some Mr. Mark softer to make sure it stays on in the gaps and everything there. So you can see it's taken nicely to the panel lines and everything like that, and do the same with the underside. It's very important when you're doing this just to clean up any excess. If you have like a big dollop of it sitting on top of the decal, it can actually warp it or deform it a little bit or damage it. So you're best off just to get rid of any excess before you leave it on there for too long. That decal I actually managed to break, and it's nothing to do with the decal. Once again, that was self-inflicted. Now, interestingly, this kit has two nose markings. So it's got the Cali kit on one side and it's got Rosemary on the other. So that's a bit different. I've normally only really ever recall seeing them as a single marking. I don't remember seeing one with two. And just using the Tamiya smoke for a little bit of post shading, you could see how thin it was. It was very, very thin. I really didn't want a lot of contrast on it. And once I've done this section here, I then go and freehand some post shading. Now I've actually applied just a little bit too much paint over that decal. By this time I've already bedded the decals down with a clear coat to protect them, so I can just wipe off any of the extra or any of the excess, and I'm not going to damage the decal below. So always seal them once they're on. Now you saw me in the first video, I used the pastels to do the staining from the guns. I just decided to do it a little bit differently this time, and did it with some post shading, painting the burnt iron around the engine and the exhausts. Get that on there. Okie doke, so pretty much exactly the same technique for panel washing as we did on the Tuskegee aircraft. We are using the panel line accent colour from Tamiya, it's black. Now I'm letting it dry onto the surface and then removing it with a cotton bud that's been moistened in turpentine. You can also use the Tamiya enamel thinner as well. I'm letting it dry just to sit in the recesses nicely, and I'll work it back over the surface pretty much in the direction of travel of the aircraft, just to give it a bit of a dirty look. You can see there are areas there, like on the tail there, I applied far too much by accident, but it's just easy to wipe off. It's no biggie, don't need to worry. As long as your model's been sealed with clear, you're going to be fine. So just to recap, if you want to watch the construction of this one, you can see it in the first video. This video and the third video are just going to be the finishing tutorial, so finishing off the painting, just to do something different. I know a lot of people like seeing it, but I'm going to get a bit bored watching someone else build a model. I don't mind watching them paint them. I like watching them paint them, but building them a lot of the time I find a bit bleh. Kind of like my narrating. Underside gets the same treatment. Now I don't let it dry on the underside. I sort of wipe it back whilst it's still wet, and it's just to make it a little bit grimier. I find it sort of streaks a little bit more if I do that. You can see I've got the landing gear covers closed over. You'll see me remove those later. I'll show you how to do that. It's easily done. It's also good because you can weather them in with the rest of the underside and it matches. It's not going to be different at all. So just using a very sharp scalpel blade, I can lift up the landing gear doors. I've just secured those in place with a bit of blue tack, and to get it out it's easy. You just use another piece of blue tack to remove it. I've got some liquid mask on the prop here as well. You can see I've beautifully painted my finger black. You'll see that through a lot of the next video too, until I eventually realise and correct it. But yeah, so I've used the liquid mask, and I'm using the toothpick just to scrape away at the edge. Pretty much overdo it on these blades. NATO Blacks, painting the wheels. All these were painted on the sprues with the Tamiya aluminium, flat aluminium. And once removed from the sprues, paint the tyres themselves. The NATO Black. The NATO Black really goes quite a nice matte grey, like really dark grey. Perfect for tyres. Just attaching these little doors here. Not too hard, just make sure you get them right in position. The landing gear once again were tricky. Couldn't get them sitting in the right spot, so I moved them around. And once I had them in position, I tacked them down with a bit of Bob Smith Industries super glue, just to make sure they didn't move. They really are one of the weak points of this kit. Evergreen plastic strip. Now this is to address another weak point of the kit, which is the aerial. So as you can see it there, there's lots of flash around it, it's deformed, it's really not all that salvageable. You try to cut it out, it's just going to shatter pretty much. So just fashion a new one from a piece of evergreen strip, glue it into place and give it a quick hit with the paint. Same with the underside aerial here, or pedo tube I think it is. Yeah, it looks much better than the kit supplied one. I've seen some at shows where people have tried to glue the kit supplied one back together. Just get a piece of plastic card and replace it. It is much easier and much nicer. Alright, just removing the mask for the canopy now. Very carefully, try not to scratch it. Now that is just tacked into place with a little bit of Bob Smith's glue again, and I'll just use a bit of the khaki green to touch up around the sides of the cockpit there. A little bit of blue on the front of the frame. Now, drop tanks. Here's one mistake I make. So with the kit, the drop tanks are actually incorrect. It's got the fill points on the drop tanks on either side of the tank. Now, I say it's incorrect because just about every photo I can find, the fill points are on the same side, so the tanks are identical, and the fill points are, if you're sitting in the plane and looking out over the nose, the fill points are on the left-hand side of the tanks. Now on the kits, I've tried to actually put the tanks with the fill points facing out. I just think it just makes a little bit more sense, even though they're incorrect. Just, yeah, it just looks a bit more sensible that way. So I put them inside here initially, then remember, and then fix it. You also saw me there putting a bit of Windsor Newton white oil on the nose there, just to dull it down a little bit. And here are some photos of the finished product. So I hope you'll like it. I know I'm doing a little bit differently to how I normally do my videos, and I hope it's not annoying you. I hope you're actually enjoying it, but I just wanted to show you sort of wrapping it up, see how it looks. And the next video will be the RAAF P51, and it should be a bit longer. There's a fair bit more to do with that one, so it's going to be longer than 15 minutes is what this was. So if you think you can handle my voice going on for that long, then by all means check it out when it comes up. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below.